Movies, Memorabilia, and the Media is an exhibit from the collection of Steve Friedman, also known as Mr. Movie. This exhibit focuses on the role of movies and media in reflecting and documenting the cultural, social, and political turbulence that defined the 1960s. After World War II, there were changes everywhere. Many people were suffering devastating losses. Others returned home. Vietnam was a threat. This was a period of conflict between generations. There was a new fascination with space adventure, artificial intelligence, and moral accountability. Filmmakers told stories that questioned social inequities and focused on the changes brought on by the civil rights movement. Environmental concerns, overpopulation, new medical technologies, and biothrillers. These movies were the new horror stories. But the classics, as always, still held the audience's attention. As TV became a competitor, studios made epic movies drawn from the Bible and the ancient world. They experimented with exciting projection techniques, wider screens, dynamic sound enhancements, and special effects. These films introduced us to international stars and created a new kind of global inclusion. Even with the quintessential American Western, actors from other countries were cast as leads, outlaws, or Native Americans. Although typecasting was a double-edged sword, once an audience was familiar with an actor, it promoted social acceptance. Broadway shows were a strong influence on movies, telling stories of immigrants, confronting the loss of innocence, and recognizing the talents of women. In many ways, the 60s were the dividing line between the old world order and a new world vision. Starting with Elvis, the emergence of rock and roll became a hot ticket for movie studios. The Beatles had a 4-picture deal with United Artists, which meant increased record sales. Bob Dylan used documentaries. This was a cultural revolution as the emerging baby boom generation began to move into the movie business. Their films questioned the social order, protocols, and championed individual choice. They were looking at life through a very different lens. Alfred Hitchcock used editing techniques that had a psychological impact on audiences and opened the door to emotional manipulation. The French New Wave was an influence, and violence was powerfully introduced in films like Bonnie and Clyde. The subject of sex and a shifting morality became a major theme and box office draw. For visitors to the show, we've included QR codes to pull up iconic scenes and to see a defining clip. The Cold War was another subject of concern during the 60s. Movie studios captivated audiences with political thrillers that explored global destruction. This included the exciting James Bond series. With exotic locations and international stars, these sophisticated films have continued to build a worldwide fan base. With all of the innovation and technology that defined the 20th century, the most culturally significant and socially transformative contribution could very possibly be the introduction of the screen. Television, computers, mobile phones, and many of the technologies that followed all started with the movies.